Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the cold, grimy corners of a medieval castle where every stone tells a story of hard work. You'll feel the grind of non-stop tasks, scrubbing pots until your hands bleed. You'll get the sting of being ignored, unseen by nobles who need you. You'll find sparks of strength holding on through tough days. These are the lives nobody sings about, but they keep the castle running. Imagine lying on a lumpy straw sack, the smell of burnt grease in the air, a rat your only buddy chewing nearby. One slip, and you're stuck cleaning latrines for a week. So, before you settle in, like and subscribe if this vibe's your thing, and drop your city and time in the comments. I love seeing where these tales reach, from late-night Sydney to evening Seattle. Now, dim the lights, maybe flip on a fan for that gentle hum, and let's dive into this story together. You wake, not because you're rested, that's a joke, but because the stone floor has frozen your bones solid. You're the scullery maid, the lowest job in the castle's messy pecking order. Your bed's a rough sack stuffed with straw that stinks like old soup and bad choices. Your tunic's a scratchy wool rag, never washed, doing triple duty as shirt, pajamas, and probably your funeral wrap someday. You're up before the sun, before the chickens, before anyone with a shred of luck. The hearth's gone cold, and a dead fire means a useless kitchen, so you stumble outside, no shoes, because yours fell apart last spring. The courtyard stones are wet and sharp, cutting into your feet as you grab sticks with hands too numb to notice scratches. Back inside, you kneel by the hearth, teasing a flame from wet wood and pure stubbornness. It flickers on, and you hold your fingers close until they don't look like they belong in a grave. Next up, water. No pipes here, just you. 2 heavy buckets, and a yoke that bites your shoulders like an angry dog. The wells across the courtyard, and each trip feels like dragging a horse. Your arms throb, your back yells, your knees shake like runny oatmeal. By your 4th hall, the kitchen crew shuffles in, yawning, itching, acting like you're not there. You're just a table with legs, noticed only when a pot needs cleaning or someone wants to point fingers. The cook bursts in like a storm, swinging a wooden spoon like it's a sword. She's yelling about a dirty stew pot, your signal to get scrubbing. No soap, that's for fancy folks. You use ashes and sand, maybe lye if you're lucky, but it stings your skin raw. Your knuckles are bloody, your right hand's a mess of tough skin and burns, your left hand's worse. The scullery's a punishment dressed up as a workspace, no air, a window clogged with grime, and a smell like overcooked meat mixed with something you don't want to name. Rats run the show, you're just here, swatting them off tables with a ladle. Come mid-morning, you haven't eaten. There's a crust of bread in your apron, hard as a rock, and you nibble it behind a door, hoping nobody sees. Someone does. A kitchen maid rats you out, and now you're on latrine duty for a week. Nice going. Later, you're bumped up to onion duty, basically crying for 2 hours straight. Your face turns into a river, and nobody checks if you're okay. They figure it's just your life falling apart. Around noon, the nobles eat. You carry plates, step where you're told, and keep your eyes down. Looking up reminds them you're a person, and they can't stand that. You hold a jug for an hour, arms dead, never asked to pour. Fun fact, medieval sculleries were usually stuck in basements to keep workers like you out of sight, but near the action. Weird tidbit, some maids cleaned with old urine ammonia's great for grease. But talk about a rough day. Historians still wonder if scullery maids got paid in coins or just food and a spot to crash. Records for lowlifes like you are pretty thin. Afternoons a blur, more water, more scrubbing, mopping floors, sweeping halls. You're blamed for a dog puking in a fancy room you've never even seen. Doesn't matter, you're guilty just for breathing. As the sun drops, dinner prep kicks into gear. The kitchen's a hot mess, smoke choking the air. You smack out a small fire with your apron and keep going. You eat from a shared bowl watery stew with a weird chunk that's probably squirrel. It's food. You're thankful. Night hits, and you're scrubbing again. Bones glued to pans like they're cursed. Your hands shake, not from cold, but from being done. You crawl to your sack by the hearth, the fire barely glowing. You smell like smoke, onions, and bad days. Someone's crying nearby. You don't ask who. You lie there, half awake, thinking of a life before this. You didn't pick this gig. Nobody picks scullery maid. Your mom worked the dairy until her back gave out. Your aunt died from river fever. This is your family heirloom hard work, handed down like a beat-up spoon. There's no climbing up, no dream job as a lady's maid. You'll scrub until you're too slow. Then they'll swap you out. For now, you notice the small stuff the kitchens beat. The unwritten rules. Don't sass the cook. Share the good bread with the girl who's hurt. Move quickly if a noble's boots are coming. Your dreams are fuzzy green hills, boats drifting, or just nothing. You wake, mouth dry, arms heavy, to another day like this one. Nobody cares, except maybe a rat you call Lord Crumbs. He's your only buddy, sneaking through the shadows, just like you. Joke 1, Lord Crumbs probably has a better gig than you. Joke 2, your tunic's so crusty, it could do your job solo. Joke 3, the rats throw wilder parties, but you're never on the list. How does a kid like you keep going when the fire's always burning? You're not shivering by the hearth anymore, but don't get comfy. You're trading one kind of misery for another. You're the spit boy now, a kid. Maybe 10, crouched by a roaring kitchen fire, turning a heavy iron spit loaded with meat. Your world is heat, smoke, and the endless creak of the crank. The air's so thick with grease it coats your tongue, and your tunic, singed at the edges, smells like every roast duck that's ever haunted your dreams. You're not here because you wanted to be. Maybe your parents sold you. Maybe they're gone. Or maybe they just saw this as your big break. Spoiler, it's not. You're small enough to fit under the hearth, old enough not to bawl every time you burn yourself, and that's your whole resume. The kitchen's a chaotic blur pots clanging, cooks shouting, maids dodging trays of oysters. You're the still point, stuck on a wobbly stool, turning the spit clockwise, slow and steady. Stop, and the meat cooks unevenly. Speed up, and someone yells, "You're ruining the Lord's goose." Once, a steward said you turned it without noble dignity. You're not sure what that means, but you nodded and kept cranking. The fire's unnatural, like sitting inside a half-baked loaf of bread. Your cheeks are permanently red, your hair's damp, and your hands black with soot look like they belong to someone twice your age. Burns are your new skin, blisters on your palms. Wrap them in a rag, singed eyebrows, grow new ones, faint aim for a spot that won't spill the gravy. You don't get breaks. The meat doesn't care if your arms are screaming, and the fire doesn't mind if sweat stings your eyes. On big feast days, it's worse whole pigs, even a deer once. You teamed up with another boy, a kid with a lazy eye who'd let go of the crank just to watch you scramble. He's gone now, maybe to the kennels. You hope the dogs are nicer to him. Your knees lock, your back knots, and once your foot fell asleep so bad you thought you'd never walk again. The steward called you dramatic and chucked a turnip at your head. Joke 1. That turnip's probably got a better story than you. By afternoon, your lips are cracked. Your cough sounds like an old man's. You've inhaled so much smoke, your snot's black. If you're lucky, someone tosses you a bone literally, with a scrap of meat clinging to it. You huddle in a corner, gnawing like a stray, then back to the spit. The nobles upstairs laugh over their plates, eating your perfectly roasted goose. You'll never see that hall, all clean and bright with soft chairs. You exist so they don't have to think about you. When the meat's done, you help yank it off, dodging sizzling fat. Then it's on to the next roast, or maybe a cauldron of stew that smells like regret and onions. Fun fact, medieval kitchens often used massive hearths, some big enough to roast an ox whole, feeding hundreds at a feast. Weird tidbit, some spit boys were rumored to sleep under the hearth for warmth, risking burns just to stay alive. Historians still wonder if spitboys were trained or just thrown in, learning by fire, literally. Evening drags in, and the fire's turned your face into a permanent sunburn. You carry trays of half-eaten meat back to the kitchen, scraping bones into a slop bucket. You're not supposed to eat scraps, but you sneak a crust when nobody's looking. The Lord's hounds get a roast tonight, better than your dinner. You start over, cranking again, hands shaking from hunger, not just fatigue. You get a bowl of pottage eventually thin, with a sad turnip floating in it. You slurp it in silence, too tired to talk. The other kids don't chat either. Everyone's just surviving. Night settles, the kitchen quiets, and you clean the spit, the knives, the hooks. Everything's got to shine, or you're scrubbing floors in the Lord's privy tomorrow. You slump by the dying fire, too sore to lie down, too wired to sleep. A rat scurries past Lord Crumbs, that sneaky guy from the scullery, now sniffing around your corner. He's got no loyalty, just like everyone else here, but you toss him a crumb anyway. You think about before maybe you were a shepherd's kid, maybe your folks ran a mill, doesn't matter. They're gone, or they ditched you. There's no way out. Best case, you're an assistant cook by 20 if you don't burn out first. Winter's the worst. The fire's your only heat, but it's a traitor one side of you roasts, the other freezes. Your cough's permanent now. Your skin peels from heat rash, then cracks in the cold. You smell like scorched fat, which sounds tasty until nobody sits near you. Joke 2. Your cough's so loud, it could wake the king if he cared. The kitchen's got its own rules. You're below the maids, below the egg boy, below the dog that begs scraps. A steward's nod is your week's highlight. You wonder, just sometimes, what it'd be like to leave. Then you remember spitboys don't leave. They grow up, or they don't. You curl up by the hearth, the coals glowing faint. Your blisters sting. Your back's a knot, but you stare into the fire, imagining warmth that doesn't hurt. Lord Crumbs watches, his little eyes glinting. He's your witness, same as he was for the scullery maid, keeping tabs on the castle's forgotten. You drift off, the spit's creak still in your ears, knowing you'll wake to the same heat, the same hunger. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs is probably writing your biography bestseller in the rat world. Why would anyone take a job where the pay is just surviving the night? The fire's behind you now, but the darkness ahead isn't any kinder. You're the Gong farmer, the guy who cleans up what everyone else leaves behind human waste. To be blunt, it's night, and you're trudging through the castle's shadows, rake and bucket in hand, heading for the cesspit. The air's sharp with frost, but soon you'll be wading through smells that make frost seem like a luxury. Nobody sees you, and that's the point you work when the world's asleep. Banned from daylight markets because your stink never washes off. Your clothes are thick wool, stuffed with moss to block the smell. Spoiler, it doesn't work. The stench is your shadow, your roommate, your life. You climb down a rickety ladder into the pit, the smell hitting like a punch you can taste. It's a mix of sewage, despair, and something that burns your eyes. You breathe through your mouth, but now you're tasting it. The pit's ankle-deep in places, knee-deep in others, a slimy stew of human and animal waste, broken pots, and the odd dead rat. Once, you found a whole chicken down here. Don't ask how it got there. You buried it with more respect than anyone's ever shown you. Your job's simple. Dig out the filth before it floods the castle. You rake through gray sludge and black crusts, stuff that gurgles like it's alive. Your boots squelch, your hands ache, and every scoop feels like a personal insult. The bucket fills fast, heavy with what the records politely call night soil. You haul it up, dump it into your creaky cart, and go back for more. It's a dozen trips, more if the nobles had a feast. You work under torchlight, silent, because nobody chats in a cesspit. When the cart's full, you roll it through empty streets, wheels leaving a trail nobody wants to follow. People gag if they see you, mutter prayers, or cross the road. One kid threw a cabbage at you. You threw something back, not your proudest moment. Outside the town, you dumped the load near fields. That's right. This filth fertilizes the crops the nobles eat. Medieval recycling. Baby. Fun fact, Gong farmers were paid better than many servants, sometimes earning more than bakers in the 14th century. Weird tidbit, some towns had Gong farmer lanes where only they could live, keeping their stink away from decent folk. Historians still wonder if the job's high pay made up for the social exile or if it was just desperation money. By dawn, you're rinsing your tools in a pond that's half ruined already. You scrub your boots, your hands, your clothes. It's pointless. The smells in your skin, your hair, your dreams. Neighbors avoid you at meals. Some won't share a table. You eat alone. Bread tasting like ash because everything smells like ash or worse. You drink ale, not water, because the water's dodgy. And honestly, staying sober for this job feels like a bad choice. Your hands don't look human anymore, cracked, black under the nails, calluses like armor. You can't smell flowers or fresh bread. Your nose only knows rot. Winter's a nightmare. The waste freezes, and you're hacking through ice with a shovel to reach the steaming mess below. Summer's no better, flies swarm, wasps show up, and the stench gets wings. You've tried vinegar, herbs, even mint leaves to mask it. Now you just smell like minty sewage. People joke behind your back, smells like a Gong farmer is a straight-up insult. They think you're dumb, but you're not. You know how to brace a ladder while hauling a 40-pound bucket. You know which side of the pit's safe after rain. You've learned which torch oils don't spark in methane pockets. That's science. Sort of. You're done by morning, dragging your empty cart back to the yard. You lean your shovel against a wall and sit on a log, not because it's clean, but because it's there. Your kids, if you've got any, say you smell like boiled cabbage and bad decisions. You can't argue. You sleep outside when the stink's too much, even for you. The castle wakes, oblivious. Nobles using their fancy bowls, never thinking about what happens next. You vanish into the shadows, just like the smell you carry. Lord Crumbs is here too, that rat from the scullery and kitchen, now sniffing around your cart. He's bolder now, less picky, darting between your buckets like he's inspecting your work. You flick a pebble his way, not to hit him, just to say, "Move along, pal." He's the only one who doesn't flinch at your smell. And that's something. Joke one, Lord Crumbs probably thinks your cart's a 5-star buffet. You wonder why you do this. The pay's decent, sure, but it's not about coins. If you stopped, the castle would drown in its own mess within a week. You're not a hero, but you're the guy keeping chaos at bay. Your dreams are rough bakers, scribes, anything but this. But you wake, hands still stinking, and head back to the pit. It's honest work. You tell yourself, even if nobody else does. The guards toss you a weak joke. Don't fall in like it's the first time you've heard it. You nod, fake a smile, and keep moving. Joke 2, your cart's got more fans than you mostly flies. Joke 3, if Lord Crumbs wrote your life story, it'd be called Shovels and Shame. How do you keep track of a castle's chaos without losing your mind? The stench of the cesspit fades. But you're not off the hook. You're stepping into a different kind of pressure cooker. You're the Chamberlain's apprentice, a servant with a fancy title, but no real power, scurrying through the castle with a ledger and a permanent knot in your stomach. Your job's a juggling act track candles, fetch keys, dodge noble tantrums, and pray you don't spill ink. You're not noble, don't get any ideas, but you get to peek into their world. Carrying parchment through halls most servants only sweep. It's not glamorous, it's just a better kind of invisible. You wake in the servants' hall, near a decent fire that doesn't smell like piss or stew. You splash water on your face, comb your hair with your fingers, and brush your tunic clean. Looks matter here. Your shoes squeak leather, stiff, a step above the barefoot scullery maid, but they're a curse, announcing you when silence is key. First task, candles. You slip through dim corridors, replacing stubs with tallow tapers that stink of sheep. Beeswax is for the chapel. You get the cheap stuff. You note anything off a low salt cellar, a missing wine cask, and scribble it down. If a chamber pot's full, you pass it to someone lower. That's the game delegate down. Stress up. The Chamberlain's already up. A sharp-nosed man who smells like ink and lavender, his robe spotless. He speaks in lists. 2 bolts of wool, 4 barrels of oil, 1 fussy friar who won't eat fish. You nod, write fast, and hope you don't smudge. Last time you spilled ink, he made you recopy a month's ledger while the steward chewed herring in your ear. Joke 1. That herring breath could have powered the castle's torches. You're part clerk, part errand boy, part punching bag, missing linens. Your fault, damp firewood. You again, dog poop in the guest stairwell. Somehow, still you, mid-morning's inspections. You trail the Chamberlain like a quiet ghost, noting his every tap and sniff. He tastes wine, lifts bed covers, checks rushes. You record it all, trying not to yawn. You did once spend the day sorting peas by size. Lunch is chaos, seating charts, feuds to avoid, making sure Lady Cress doesn't stab Lord Alric over last Lent's wine spat. You carry titles, correct names, and pray nobody reignites a blood feud over pie. After, you read accounts in the solar wax, fish, barley, soap. The Chamberlain quizzes you how many loaves from a stone of flour hesitate, and his eyebrows a death sentence. Fun fact, Chamberlains managed castle finances, often keeping records that survive today, like 14th century household rolls. Weird tidbit, some apprentices carried love letters for nobles, editing out the crazy bits before delivery. Historians still wonder if apprentices like you ever got promoted, or just burned out from noble whims. Afternoons a mess of visitors' nights, cousins, egos with trunks. You assign linens, note who gets what, knowing you'll catch hell if anything's missing. You fetch keys armory, wine cellar, a wardrobe key that fits nothing but matters anyway. They jingle on your belt, heavy as guilt. Losing one's a scandal, maybe a beating. You touch them like they're your lifeline. Then there's the noble lady who dictates love notes behind a curtain, feeding her dog strawberries. You write, tone down the drama, and deliver to a blushing knight. Joke 2. That dog eats better than you and probably flirts better too. Evening means candles again. You relight, trim, snuff. Your fingers stained with wax and ink. The hall's quiet. Nobles drinking, servants breathing. You're stuck between worlds, not welcome in either. You check guest rooms, fluff rushes, ensure nobody's eloped or spilled wine. Your feet hurt, your head pounds. You haven't eaten since dawn. The Chamberlain forgets to dismiss you sometimes. You wait outside his door, dozing, stomach growling, while he bores a page with old stories. Finally, he flicks you away. You bow, mumble thanks, and limp to your bunk, a narrow slab, blanket stolen again. You lie down, still dressed, staring at the ceiling. You thought this job would be exciting secrets, power. Instead, it's hemorrhoid complaints and stolen pastries. Power's just more rules to break you. You're learning to be invisible but indispensable, present but forgettable. Lord Crumbs is here, that rat from the scullery, kitchen, and cesspit. Now nibbling a candle stub in the corner. He's climbing the ranks, same as you, but he's got less to lose. You toss him a crumb not out of kindness, just habit. He's your shadow, watching you juggle the castle's chaos. You drift off, counting barrels in your head. The other servants barely tolerate you. You're not one of them anymore, with your cleanish clothes and big words like inventory. But you're no noble either. They forget your name as you light their fires. You exist in the middle, holding the castle together while it blames you for every crack. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs is probably the only one who'd notice if you quit. You wake to bells, stretch your creaky legs, and grab your squeaky shoes. Another day of lists, candles, and noble nonsense waits. How do you find peace when you're elbow deep in horse muck all day? The ink and candle wax are behind you, but you're not exactly stepping into a cozy office. You're the stable boy now, knee-deep in hay and horse muck, your days filled with shoveling, brushing, and dodging hooves. You sleep in the loft above the stables, where the floorboards creak and the horses below never stop shifting. Their snorts and stomps are your lullaby, along with the faint smell of manure that's now just part of your skin. You're up before dawn, pulling on stiff boots and a tunic that smells like sweat and bad luck. The cold hits like a kick to the chest as you climb down the ladder, your hands already cracked from yesterday's work. Your first job's mucking stalls. You grab a pitchfork and start shoveling. The mix of straw and dung heavy and endless. Move too fast, and you spook the horses too slow, and the master of horse will have your hide. You've got scars, 2 broken fingers from a nervous mare, a bruised rib from a hoof that got too close. The master called you careless and threw a bridle at your head. Joke 1. That bridle's probably still mad it missed you. You clear the stalls, then haul oats and hay from the loft, heavy sacks that make your back scream. Feeding's tricky. Some horses snap at your hands. Others shy away. You've learned their quirks. The gray stallion bites strangers. The chestnut mare trusts only you. You love the horses, though they don't lie or yell, unlike the cook or steward. You can tell a sick horse by its breath, a nervous one by its eyes. You whisper nonsense to calm them, and they nuzzle your hand, soft as velvet. It's the closest thing to kindness you get. Mid-morning's grooming time. You brush manes, clean hooves, and pick burrs, your arms aching like they're made of lead. If the Lord's riding, you polish tack until it shines not for him, but to avoid the master's fist. You check stirrups, white bits, and pray the Lord's gelding doesn't fidget. If it does, guess who's to blame? You. Always. Fun fact, medieval stables housed war horses bred for battle, often worth more than a knight's armor. Weird tidbit, some stable boys rubbed horse sweat on their hands, believing it kept evil spirits away. Historians still wonder if stable boys had any chance of becoming squires or were just stuck in the muck forever. Noon brings noble chaos. The Lord decides to ride last minute. Naturally, you saddle his best horse, checking straps 3 times, your hands shaking from the rush. You stand aside, invisible. As he mounts, if the horse slips in the mud, you'll hear about it for weeks. You fetch water, sweep the yard, stack more hay. Flies buzz, your shoulders burn, and you've got cuts in places you didn't know could bleed. You grab a quick break, sitting on a stool with warm ale and a crust of bread too hard for the kitchen to keep. You chew slow, staring at dust floating like tired ghosts. Joke 2. Those dust motes have a better shot at knighthood than you. Winter's brutal. The troughs freeze, and you smash ice with a hammer just to get water. Your fingers go numb, even in gloves. Summer's no picnic either. Sweat soaks your soul, and flies are relentless. Evening means more cleaning, more brushing, more dung. The master checks in, grunts if he's happy, yells if he's not. You sneak a carrot for the gray mare. She doesn't bite you, which feels like a win. At dusk, you climb to the loft. Your bed a pile of rags and straw that smells like mildew and leather. You lie down, still dressed, listening to the horses breathe below. They're the only ones who know your name well, your voice, at least. You're nearly 17, but your back creaks like an old gate. Nobody at court knows you, they just call you boy. The kitchen maid sometimes leaves you bread crusts. The blacksmith grunts hello, and once a knight tossed you a silver coin for calming his stallion. You keep it, not to spend, but to prove you're real. You're not climbing any ladder. No stable boy becomes a knight. But you know horses how to wrap a wound, spot a limp, calm a foal. That's something. You've seen other boys break, run off, or vanish after a beating. You stay, head down, because the horses need you. Lord Crumbs is here, that rat from the scullery, kitchen, cesspit, and halls, now sniffing around your hay bales. He's bolder, fatter, probably stealing oats like he owns the place. You flick a straw at him, not mad, just saying. Get your own stable. He's your shadow, watching you work, same as he watched the others. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs is probably training to be the master of horse someday. You close your eyes, the horse's soft snorts filling the dark. They trust you, and that's enough most days. How do you keep dogs running a wheel without losing your heart? The stable's dust and horse breath fade, but you're still surrounded by animals, just smaller, grumpier ones. You're the Turnspit Dog Keeper now, stuck in a smoky kitchen, coaxing dogs to run a wheel that turns the roasting spit. Your world's a blur of heat, barking, and grease that clings like a bad habit. You sleep on a straw pallet near the hearth, sharing it with a short-legged mutt named Snipe, his fur matted with duck fat. He's snoring, warm, and smells better than the cook, which isn't saying much. You wake early, stepping in something wet, hopefully water, probably not. Your tunic's stiff with soot, your knees ache from crouching, and the day's already screaming at you. Your job's keeping the dogs moving. The turnspit wheels like a hamster cage for miserable canines, spinning meat over the fire. You haul Snipe from the pallet, he nips your hand, and you mutter an apology. He's been running 3 days straight. You get why he's cranky. You latch him in, and he starts trudging, the spit creaking as a boar roasts. Too slow, and the meat burns too fast, and the cook chucks a ladle at your head. You watch, bribe with crusts, and beg him not to quit. If he stops, the roast slips, and you're blamed for ruining the Lord's dinner. Joke 1, Snipe's got a better union than you, 0 days off, but he bites. There are 4 dogs, Snipe, Button, Moored. Guts, you rotate them, 2 run, 2 rest, though rest means whining and chewing bones in a corner. You rub their legs, whisper encouragements like you're coaching tiny gladiators. The wheel squeaks loud enough to make the cook twitch, so you clean it with a rag, dodging sparks. The kitchen's a furnace smoke, shouting, pots boiling over. You're burned everywhere. Your forearms look like bad parchment. Summer's torture. Winter's worse, the fire never quits. Your cough's a permanent guest, your eyes red from ash. You sneak the dog scraps goose fat, gravy-soaked bread because peas don't fuel a sprint. Guts almost took your thumb off last week. Love's complicated here. Fun fact, Turnspit dogs were a real breed in medieval Europe, bred for kitchen wheels until machines replaced them by the 19th century. Weird tidbit. Some castles let dogs run loose at night, believing their barking scared off ghosts. Historians still wonder if keepers like you were seen as animal trainers or just cheap labor for a weird machine. Midday, a noble kid wanders in, points at the wheel, and calls it a spinning puppy. You smile, but her tutor glares like you've corrupted her. You stay quiet. Speaking's not your job. The Lord passes through, nods at the meat, and praises its earthy flavor. That's your sweat and probably dog hair. You're welcome. By afternoon, your back's hunched from ducking beams and hauling spits. Your hands are calluses and burns. Your knees creak when it rains. You're 17, but you move like you're 40. You used to dream of being a falconer, soaring with birds. Now, the only soaring is the smoke in your lungs. You get a moment alone by the back door, Moored curled beside you. She's the quiet dog, just breathing, not demanding. You rest your head against her, just for a second, before the cook's bell rings. More meat, more spinning. You scrub grease off your arms with sand, but it's in your soul now. The nobles upstairs talk about rustic kitchens, meaning the roasted swan, not your burns or the dog's sore paws. They don't know you exist. Once, a bard said turnspit dogs love the exercise. You nearly choked laughing. Joke 2. That bard's never run a wheel or dodged a ladle. Night falls, and you clean the wheel, the spits, the hooks. Everything's got to be spotless, or you're scrubbing floors tomorrow. You eat pottage grainy, thin, with a questionable chunk. You slurp it in silence, the dogs panting nearby. Guts growls unless you've got bacon grease. Mord just looks tired, like you. You've named them all, learned their quirks by blood and error. Nobody taught you to train them, you figured it out, one bite at a time. You keep a stick handy, hating it. But sometimes they dig in their paws and stare like they know this job's a bad joke. You curl up by the hearth, the fire's glow fading. Lord Crumbs is back, that rat from the scullery, kitchen, cesspit, and stables, now sniffing your palate. He's sneaky, stealing dog crumbs, growing fatter on everyone's scraps. You toss him a bit of bread not because you like him, but because he's the only one who sticks around. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs is probably the real chef here, sampling everything. You drift off to the sound of paws on wood, the dog's slow breaths, the sizzle of fat. You dream of running, not from anything, just running, the wheel turning in your sleep. How do you keep scrubbing when your hands are frozen raw? You're not shivering by the hearth anymore. But don't get comfy, you're trading one kind of misery for another. You're the spit boy now, a kid, maybe 10, crouched by a roaring kitchen fire, turning a heavy iron spit loaded with meat. Your world is heat, smoke, and the endless creak of the crank. The air's so thick with grease it coats your tongue, and your tunic singed at the edges smells like every roast duck that's ever haunted your dreams. You're not here because you wanted to be. Maybe your parents sold you, maybe they're gone, or maybe they just saw this as your big break. Spoiler, it's not. You're small enough to fit under the hearth, old enough not to bawl every time you burn yourself, and that's your whole resume. The kitchen's a chaotic blur, pots clanging, cooks shouting, maids dodging trays of oysters. You're the still point, stuck on a wobbly stool, turning the spit clockwise, slow and steady. Stop. And the meat cooks unevenly. Speed up, and someone yells you're ruining the Lord's goose. Once, a steward said you turned it without noble dignity. You're not sure what that means, but you nodded and kept cranking. The fire's unnatural, like sitting inside a half-baked loaf of bread. Your cheeks are permanently red, your hair's damp, and your hands black with soot look like they belong to someone twice your age. Burns are your new skin, blisters on your palms, wrap them in a rag, singed eyebrows, grow new ones, faint aim for a spot that won't spill the gravy. You don't get breaks. The meat doesn't care if your arms are screaming, and the fire doesn't mind if sweat stings your eyes. On big feast days, it's worse whole pigs, even a deer once. You teamed up with another boy, a kid with a lazy eye who'd let go of the crank just to watch you scramble. He's gone now, maybe to the kennels. You hope the dogs are nicer to him. Your knees lock, your back knots, and once your foot fell asleep so bad you thought you'd never walk again. The steward called you dramatic and chucked a turnip at your head. Joke 1. That turnip's probably still mad it missed you. By afternoon, your lips are cracked, your cough sounds like an old man's. You've inhaled so much smoke, your snot's black. If you're lucky, someone tosses you a bone literally, with a scrap of meat clinging to it. You huddle in a corner, gnawing like a stray, then back to the spit. The nobles upstairs laugh over their plates, eating your perfectly roasted goose. You'll never see that hall, all clean and bright with soft chairs. You exist so they don't have to think about you. When the meat's done, you help yank it off, dodging sizzling fat. Then it's on to the next roast, or maybe a cauldron of stew that smells like regret and onions. Fun fact, medieval kitchens often used massive hearths, some big enough to roast an ox whole, feeding hundreds at a feast. Weird tidbit, some spit boys were rumored to sleep under the hearth for warmth, risking burns just to stay alive. Historians still wonder if spit boys were trained or just thrown in, learning by fire, literally. Evening drags in, and the fire's turned your face into a permanent sunburn. You carry trays of half-eaten meat back to the kitchen, scraping bones into a slop bucket. You're not supposed to eat scraps, but you sneak a crust when nobody's looking. The Lord's hounds get a roast tonight, better than your dinner. You start over, cranking again, hands shaking from hunger, not just fatigue. You get a bowl of pottage eventually thin, with a sad turnip floating in it. You slurp it in silence, too tired to talk. The other kids don't chat either. Everyone's just surviving. Night settles, the kitchen quiets, and you clean the spit, the knives, the hooks. Everything's got to shine, or you're scrubbing floors in the Lord's privy tomorrow. You slump by the dying fire, too sore to lie down, too wired to sleep. A rat scurries past Lord Crumbs, that sneaky guy from the scullery, now sniffing around your corner. He's got no loyalty, just like everyone else here, but you toss him a crumb anyway. You think about before maybe you were a shepherd's kid. Maybe your folks ran a mill. Doesn't matter. They're gone, or they ditched you. There's no way out. Best case, you're an assistant cook by 20 if you don't burn out first. Winter's the worst. The fire's your only heat. But it's a traitor one side of you roasts, the other freezes. Your cough's permanent now, your skin peels from heat rash, then cracks in the cold. You smell like scorched fat, which sounds tasty until nobody sits near you. Joke 2. Your cough's so loud, it could wake the king if he cared. The kitchen's got its own rules. You're below the maids, below the egg boy, below the dog that begs scraps. A steward's nod is your week's highlight. You wonder, just sometimes, what it'd be like to leave. Then you remember, spit boys don't leave. They grow up, or they don't. You curl up by the hearth, the coals glowing faint. Your blisters sting, your back's a knot, but you stare into the fire, imagining warmth that doesn't hurt. Lord Crumbs watches, his little eyes glinting. He's your witness, same as he was for the scullery maid, keeping tabs on the castle's forgotten. You drift off, the spits creak still in your ears, knowing you'll wake to the same heat, the same hunger. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs is probably writing your biography bestseller in the rat world. Why would anyone take a job where the pay is just surviving the night? The sting of lye and damp linens fades, but you're not trading labor for rest. You're the castle guard now, perched on a cold stone bench, spear in hand, watching the night through an arrow slit. The air's sharp, fog curling outside like a ghost that's lost its way. Your cloak's thin, barely holding back the chill, and your breath clouds in the torchlight. You're not a knight, not a hero with songs, just the guy who freezes so others can sleep. Your job's simple: guard the gate, patrol the wall, stay awake. If trouble comes, you're the first to meet it, and maybe the first to fall. You shift on the bench, your knees creaking from hours of sitting. The brazier's coals are nearly dead, just a faint orange glow. You nod off sometimes, just for a second, but jerk awake, gripping your spear like it's your lifeline. Falling asleep's a crime here. The sergeant's wooden blade still stings your ribs from yesterday's lesson. You pace the gatehouse, boots slipping on slick flagstones. You know every crack, every uneven stone from countless rounds. The wind howls through the murder holes, flapping your cloak like a tired flag. You check the portcullis hinges, rusted, but locked. If they jam, it's on you. Outside, the courtyard's quiet. A strayed dog sniffs the kitchen door. A drunk stumbles from the barracks, mumbling a song. Not your problem. You climb to the wall, scanning the woods beyond. Trees sway in the mist. The moon, a pale smudge. No movement. But your jumpy can't afford not to be. A noise, maybe a bird, maybe the gate settling makes you freeze. Spear ready. Nothing. You exhale, return to your post. Your hip aches from leaning on stone, your fingers numb despite gloves. You chew a strip of dried meat, tough as leather. Your only dinner? A noble kid once laughed at it, waving a pastry. You kept chewing. That's what guards do. Fun fact, medieval castle guards often worked 12-hour shifts, with night watches rotated to keep men alert. Weird tidbit. Some guards carried charms, like rabbit feet, thinking they'd ward off arrows or bad luck. Historians still wonder if guards were trained soldiers or just peasants handed spears and told to stand still. Midnight bells toll. You make your rounds east tower to west, past the armory, past the chapel where a priest's candle flickers. He's praying, sleepless like you. You pause, then move on. The wall walks brutal, wind cutting through your cloak. You check the fields again, nothing but shadows. You think of your mother's farm, warm cider, harvest moons. Is she still there? You hope so. Back at the gatehouse, you sit, spear across your lap. The brazier's out now. You don't relight it. Cold keeps you sharp. The captain swings by. Boots echoing, he eyes you, checks the ledger, taps the pike rack. Still breathing, he grunts. Barely. You reply. He nods and leaves. No good job. You're here because someone has to be. You remember last year's bandit attack, 6 drunk men, axes swinging after midnight. You sounded the bell, held the gate, speared one through the ribs. He died at your feet, gurgling. No sleep for 3 nights after. The steward sent bread. The sergeant nodded once. That's it. Your reward was going back to the gate. Your cloak's worn, leather straps cracked, helmet dented. You should replace it, but it works. Joke 1. That helmet's tougher than your dreams of promotion. Your joints grind, your back's a knot, but there's pride in keeping the castle safe, even if nobody sees it. Dawn's close, the fog lifting. Bells will ring soon, and day guards loud, shaved, rested will take over. You'll hand off your spear, nod, and fade away. You descend to the barracks, your cot a rough plank with a mildewy blanket. You peel off your cloak, set boots aside, and sit. Bones heavy. Lord Crumbs is here, that rat from the scullery, kitchen, cesspit, stables, and laundry, now sniffing your gear. He's crafty, dodging your boots like a pro. You toss him a crumb, not friendship, just truce. He's seen more of your nights than anyone. Joke 2. Lord Crumbs probably knows the guard schedule better than you. You lie down, staring at mortar lines like roads to nowhere. Other guards snore. One twitches in his sleep. You envy their rest. You've got a knife under your pillow, cloak wrapped around your feet. If trouble hits, you're first out the door. That's the gig. You close your eyes. The castle stirring buckets clank. The cook yells. You've earned your sleep. But tonight, you'll be back. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs might take your shift if you bribe him with enough scraps. Who's watching the castle when everyone else is dreaming? The cold stone of the guard post slips away. But you're not resting yet. You're trading spear for lantern. You're the night watchwoman now, gliding through the castle's dark halls, a ring of keys jingling softly at your hip. No armor, no sword, just soft shoes patched with scraps and a wool dress layered against the chill that cracks teeth. Your job's to patrol while the castle sleeps, checking locks, sniffing for smoke, listening for trouble. If a fire sparks or someone screams, you're the first to deal with it, armed only with a flickering tallow candle and a knack for staying unseen. You light your lantern, the flame dancing across stone walls. You start at the nursery, where 2 noble kids sleep under fancy quilts. You know their fevers, their bedwetting habits, but not their names. You straighten a blanket and slip out, silent as a shadow. The Hall of Tapestries comes next. Battle scenes and dead knights staring from the walls. A creak behind you. You keep walking. Fear's not in your contract. The library's locked, but you jiggle the handle. Last time it was open, rats chewed a manuscript, and the steward raged for days. The chapel's quiet, a votive candle burning low. You snuff it last winter. A stray ember nearly torched the drapes. You touch the candlestick, cold and safe, then move on. You climb a narrow stairway, legs aching from your third round. The castle's huge, and you know its sounds: dripping water, scuttling mice, wood settling. You can tell what's normal, what's not. In the east wing, a window's open wrong. It's latched at supper. You set your lantern down. Close it quietly. No need to report it. The steward doesn't believe in ghosts. You do. You carry a pouch of salt in your apron, not for cooking, but for protection. An old cook swore it keeps evil away. You've never used it, but it's there, just in case. Joke 1. If ghosts hate salt, they're missing out on decent stew. The laundry room's next, linens stiff with cold. You spot a noble's cloak, hem singed from a wall torch. You sigh, tuck it under your arm to mend later. In the kitchen corridor, a pot simmers onion broth, sour and thin. You dip a crust of bread, just enough to feel human. Nobody saves you a plate. You're not on their schedule. You check the Lord's solar stairs off limits, a world of feather beds you'll never touch. You keep going, passing the servants' dormitory. A baby cries, you knock, pass a flask of warm water to a bleary-eyed mother. She nods. Thanks. No words. You're used to that. Fun fact, night watchwomen were rare but real in medieval castles, often widows or trusted servants tasked with nighttime patrols. Weird tidbit. Some carried bells to wake sleepers during fires, though the clanging annoyed nobles more than saved them. Historians still wonder if watchwomen were respected for their vigilance or just tolerated as cheap labor. Near dawn, you take your final round. The lantern's low, candle stub barely flickering. You check storerooms, eyes sharp for rats or sparks. The armory doors crack not right. You step inside, heart thumping, scanning swords and pikes. Nothing's missing, just a draft. You bolt it shut, move on. Back at the kitchen hearth, you sit, unwrap the singed cloak, and thread a needle. Your stitches are slow, fingers shaking from the cold and long hours. You finish as morning bells ring, the castle waking doors creak. Someone groans. You fold the cloak, hang it, and climb to your cot, a shelf above the linen stores. You curl up, skirt tucked, like a letter nobody opens. Lord Crumbs is here, that rat from the scullery, kitchen, cesspit, stables, laundry, and guard post. Now sniffing your lantern. He's sly, dodging your keys like he's danced this dance before. You toss him a crumb, not out of love, just habit. He's seen your rounds, your secrets, more than any human. Joke 2. Lord Crumbs probably knows the castle's layout better than the Lord. The walls feel alive at night, heavy with centuries of steps like yours. You're not small, you're part of something bigger, even if nobody says it. You whisper wishes to the dark practical ones, like a thicker blanket. The stars outside, cold and steady. Listen. Maybe. You drift off, the castle's breath around you. Joke 3. If Lord Crumbs ran the night watch, he'd demand a fancier lantern. You're not a hero, just the one who keeps the dark at bay. But who's keeping the castle's secrets when you're asleep? Who holds the real power among the castle's forgotten workers? The quiet of the night watch fades, but you're still stuck in the castle's hustle. You're not locked into one job anymore. You're a helper, jumping between tasks, watching the messy web of servant friendships and fights. Your tunic's patched, but okay. Your shoes worn but soft. You sleep in a crowded room, on a lumpy mat between snoring bodies, the air heavy with sweat and secrets. You wake at dawn, not to bells, but to others shuffling, everyone guarding their own spot. You start hauling water for the scullery, dodging the cook's swinging spoon. You've learned her moods when to nod, when to hide. The kitchen's a mess, maids whisper. The spit boy glares. The egg boy hides his scraps like treasure. You don't quite fit with them, but you're not above them either. You move between groups, trading small stuff, a bread crust for a laundress's thread, a candle stub for a guard's nod. Power here isn't money or titles. It's knowing who owes you, who snitches, who shares. You keep track in your head the scullery maid who covered for you, the stable boy who gave you an apple. You pay back with quiet favors, never words. The servant world's tough but tricky. The cook runs the kitchen, but even she answers to the steward, who prowls like a hawk. You're below both, but you've seen the steward sneak candles from the chapel, your secret to keep. The Chamberlain's apprentice acts fancy with his inky hands, but he's stuck like you. The Gong farmer's an outcast, but his coins buy ale you all share. You step carefully one wrong move, and you're ignored or worse. Once, a kitchen maid tried blaming you for a broken pot. You slipped moldy bread in her apron as a hint. She stopped. Joke 1. Moldy bread's your best comeback, quiet but stinky. At noon, you're lugging firewood to the fancy rooms, dodging nobles who don't notice you. You hear their chatter. Lady Cress hates Lord Alrich's new cloak. A knight ate too many figs and made a mess. You tuck it away, not to use, just to know. Knowing stuff is like gold here. The laundress trades a rumor about the Chamberlain's weird habits for your stolen onion. The stable boy grumbles about a sick horse. You give him a rag for bandages. These trades keep you going, but trust is rare. The Turnspit Dog Keeper snitched on you for napping once. You forgot to warn him about the cook's bad day. Fair's fair. Fun fact, servant jobs in medieval castles had strict ranks, like steward above cook, shown in old records from the 1200s. Weird tidbit. Some servants scratched favor lists on wood, hiding them from bosses. Historians still guess if these deals ever sparked big fights or just small grudges. Afternoon. You're chopping veggies in the kitchen, hearing maids plan for a wedding feast. You stay quiet, gossip's a trap. Say too much, and you're the next target. You head to the stables, sweeping straw. The horses calmer than the servants' drama. By evening, you're eating pottage with the others in the common room. Nobody talks much. Everyone's wiped out. But eyes meet, heads nod a secret code. You share a crust with a new girl, her hand still soft. She'll learn fast or break. You've seen servants disappear sick, fired, or just done. You stay sharp, watching who's friendly, who's not. Lord Crumbs is back. That rat from the scullery, kitchen, cesspit, stables, laundry, and night watch. Now darting through the sleeping room. He's the real boss, stealing scraps, dodging feet, owing no one. You toss him a crumb not because you're friends, but because he's winning at this game. He's fatter now, scampering over mats like he owns them. Joke 2. Lord Crumbs probably has a secret hideout fancier than your mat. You lie down, and the snores around you are oddly cozy. You don't dream of castles or riches, just a day without slip-ups. The castle needs folks like you, helpers, deal-makers, the ones holding it together. Night falls. And you think of the rules. Don't trust the steward. Share the good bread. Hide when the cook's mad. You're not moving up, but you're getting by. Weaving through this hidden world. Joke 3. Lord Crumb's guide to surviving would just say, run. You drift off, the rooms hum in your ears, ready for another day of trades and tension. What happens when a big feast flips the castle into chaos? The dormitory's snores and sneaky deals fade, but you're not catching a break. You're diving into the madness of a feast day. You're still a floater, pulled into every corner of the castle as nobles celebrate a wedding or some lord's big win. The air buzzes with chaos shouting, clanging pots, and the smell of roasting meat so thick it sticks to your skin. Your tunic's damp with sweat. Your shoes scuff the floor as you run from kitchen to hall, helping wherever the steward points. Today's not about quiet trades. It's about surviving a storm where everyone's yelling and nobody's happy. You start at dawn, hauling extra firewood to the kitchen. The cook's a whirlwind, barking orders, her spoon swinging like it's got a personal grudge. You dodge it barely and carry trays of dough to the ovens. The scullery maids are scrubbing triple time, pots piling up like a losing bet. You grab a ladle, stir a cauldron of stew peas, barley, something that might be pigeon while the spit boy cranks harder, his face redder than the fire. The turnspit dogs bark, the wheel squeaks, and a maid drops a tray of bread. The cook screams. You sweep it up before she notices. 3 times the guests, 10 times the work, and you're already bone-tired by noon. You're sent to the great hall, carrying pitchers of ale, stepping quick to avoid noble boots. The tables are packed lords, ladies, knights, all laughing, spilling, demanding more. You pour, eyes down, knowing one wrong move means a week of scrubbing floors. A noble grabs your arm, sloshing ale, complaining it's too warm. You nod, apologize, and fetch another jug, your hands shaking. Back in the kitchen, you chop onions until your eyes burn, then haul water for the laundress, who's drowning in stained tablecloths. The stable boy's saddling horses for late guests. You toss him a rag to wipe mud off his hands. Everyone's stretched thin, even the dogs. Fun fact, medieval feasts could last days, with dozens of dishes like swan or peacock served to show off wealth, as seen in 14th century banquet records. Weird tidbit. Some castles hired fool's boys to juggle or tumble during feasts, often getting pelted with bones for fun. Historians still guess if servants like you got extra pay for feast days or just extra bruises. By afternoon, the hall's a mess, gravy-slick bones, half-eaten pies, spilled wine pooling under benches. You clear plates, dodging a knight who's had too much ale and thinks he's a poet. You're not allowed to eat scraps, but you sneak a crust, chewing fast behind a tapestry. The steward catches you, glares, but says nothing. He's too busy yelling at the Chamberlain's apprentice for missing napkins. You run to the laundry yard, helping the laundress beat linens, your arms aching like they're about to quit. Back in the kitchen, a fire sparks. You stomp it out with your apron, heart pounding. Joke 1. Your apron's seen more action than the castle's knights. Evening hits, and the chaos doubles. The nobles dance, minstrels play, and you're carrying trays of candied fruit, trying not to trip. The Turnspit Dog Keeper's wrestling a dog that stopped running. You toss him a scrap to bribe it. The guards at the gate, twitchy, watching for drunken guests who might start a fight. Your everywhere kitchen, hall, stables your feet raw, your back screaming. You steal a moment by the courtyard, gulping ale from a cracked cup. The stars are out, but you're too tired to look. You think of the scullery maid's burns, the Gong farmer's stench, the night watchwoman's lonely rounds. Feast days break you all, but you keep moving. Lord Crumbs is thriving, that rat from the scullery, kitchen, cesspit, stables, laundry, guard post, and dormitory. Now darting through the hall, snatching crumbs like a king. He's fat, fearless, dodging noble boots with ease. You flick a pebble his way, not to hit him, just to say, slow down. Champ, he's the real winner today, feasting better than you. Joke 2. Lord Crumbs probably has a seat reserved at the next banquet. You're back to work, hauling more water, clearing more plates. The cook's voice cracks from yelling. The steward paces like a caged dog. You're not a person today, you're a pair of hands, a shadow, a cog in the castle's frenzy. Night drags on, the feast winding down. You sweep the hall, bones crunching underfoot. Your hands shake, not from cold, but from running on empty. You eat pottage in the dark, shared with a maid who's too tired to talk. You collapse on your pallet, the dormitory quiet, except for snores. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs is probably dancing with the minstrels while you're passed out. You dream of stillness, but tomorrow's another day of deals and dodging. What keeps you going when winter freezes everything but your work? The feast's chaos fades, but there's no rest for you. You're back in the castle's grip, now facing winter's bite. You're still a floater, darting between jobs, but the cold makes every task a fight. Your tunic's layered with scraps, your shoes stuffed with rags, yet the chill seeps into your bones. You sleep in the dormitory, mat wedged between shivering bodies, the air thick with frost and coughs. You wake to darkness, breath clouding, hands already stiff. Winter's not just weather, it's a thief, stealing warmth, strength, and hope. You're hauling water, scrubbing floors, helping wherever the steward points, all while fighting to stay warm. You start in the scullery, where the buckets freeze before you reach the kitchen. You chip ice with numb fingers, the yolk cutting your shoulders raw. The cook's hacking through a cough, still swinging her spoon. You stir a pot of thin gruel, the steam a brief mercy on your face. The spit boy's by the hearth, his burns worse in the cold frostbite on one hand, blisters on the other. You toss him a rag to wrap it, a small trade from your floater days. The laundress is struggling, her lye water icing over. You haul firewood to keep her fire going. The stable boy's breaking trough ice for horses, his breath like dragon smoke. You sweep straw to help, your hands too cold to grip the broom right. Winter doubles the work. The castle's walls block wind but not drafts, which sneak through like knives. You carry firewood to the noble's solar, dodging their glares. They're wrapped in furs, sipping hot wine, while your fingers purple. You're sent to the guard post, stacking coal for the brazier. The guard shivering, his spear shaking. You nod, sharing a silent, "We're both screwed." Look, the night watchwoman's lantern flickers as she passes, her scarf frosted. You slip her a dry cloth for her hands, another favor logged. The Gong farmer's out there, hacking through frozen filth. You don't envy him, but you toss him a crust. Winter makes allies of you all, even if nobody says it. Fun fact, medieval winters often killed more servants than disease, with records from the 1300s showing high deaths from cold exposure. Weird tidbit. Some servants smeared goose fat on their skin, thinking it trapped heat like a second skin. Historians still guess if winter work quotas rose or if castles just let servants drop from exhaustion. By noon, your cough's a rattle, your nose runs, but you keep moving. You're in the kitchen, chopping frozen roots, your knife slipping on icy carrots. The turnspit dogs whine, their paws sore from the cold wheel. You sneak them a scrap, hoping they don't bite. The hall needs sweeping snow, tracked in by noble boots. You scrub, your knees aching on frozen stone. A noble complains the fire's too low. You haul more logs, your back screaming. You steal a moment by the hearth, chewing a stale crust, your fingers thawing just enough to feel the pain. The feast's leftovers are gone. Nobles ate well. You didn't. Joke 1. Your cough's so loud, it could double as the castle's bell. Afternoons are a blur of tasks. You help the laundress hang linens near the fire, praying they don't catch. You carry ale to the hall, dodging a drunk knight's flailing arm. The stable's leaking, water pooling. You patch it with straw, your hands cracked and bleeding. By dusk, you're dragging, but the steward's orders don't stop. You're everywhere: kitchen, stables, laundry yard. Your body a knot of cold and hurt. Lord Crumbs is here, that rat from every corner of the castle, now nibbling frozen crumbs in the dormitory. He's tougher than you, his fur fluffed against the chill. You toss him a scrap, not kindness, just respect for a survivor. Joke 2. Lord Crumbs probably has a winter coat better than yours. You collapse on your mat. The dormitory snores a grim lullaby. You're not special, just one of many keeping the castle alive. You think of the scullery maid's burned hands, the spit boy's cough, the Gong farmer's frozen shovel. Winter breaks you all, but you keep going because stopping means someone else takes your place, and suffering's the only job security you've got. Joke 3. Lord Crumbs is probably the only one warm tonight, curled up in stolen straw. You dream of spring, but wake to ice, ready for another day of freezing work. Now, let's slow down. Let the castle's cold walls fade. Picture yourself sinking into that lumpy mat, the dormitory's hum softening, the air heavy with quiet. Your hands, raw from winter's bite, rest still. The fire's glow dims, just embers now, warm and gentle. You've walked the scullery's grime, felt the spit's heat, braved the cesspit's stench, and carried the weight of unseen work. Lord Crumbs, that scrappy rat, curls up somewhere safe, his tiny eyes closing too. The castle sleeps, and so can you. Did you catch that goose-fat trick for warmth, or how the night watchwoman's salt pouch kept ghosts at bay? Those little sparks of survival linger, like stars outside, steady and far. You're not the king, not a knight, but you're the heartbeat of this place. Let the snores around you blur, the cold ease, the ache slip away. Tomorrow's tasks can wait. For now, breathe slow, let the darkness wrap you like a soft blanket, and drift into a quiet, dreamless rest. Sweet dreams.